Hello, Wendy here, and welcome back to another swatching video. As you can tell by what is on screen in front of you, as well as probably the title of this video, today we are swatching pinks. Pink is not necessarily one of my favorite colors, but it is a pretty color, and it does, for me, bring back some nostalgia, because as a child, I'd say between the ages of 10 and 12, pink was my favorite color, and literally everything I owned, everything I could choose the color of, I chose pink. And I'm not sure if there was anyone else like that when they were a kid, but I definitely went through that phase. I now sort of rebel against it and refuse to wear it. But it is still very pretty to paint with, and so we're going to go through my different media here in the hue of pink. Yeah, here we go. Let's get on with the swatching, shall we? Okay, so as with the other ones, I'm going to start with my colored pencils, and I only have my old Prismacolors in this particular family. So we will continue on with my ancient high school old colored pencils here, and they are the older Prismacolors from way back when, as I have mentioned in other videos, swatching videos. So the first one here is 927, and the internet tells me that this is called Light Peach. I would say that that is an accurate name for this color. This one feels particularly waxy. I wonder if it has something to do with the formulation because the pigment is so pale. It's a little bit, I don't know how to, it's leaving darker flecks in it. Okay, next. We have 928, which is called Blush Pink. This is definitely a pink I would have been drawn to when I was a little girl. And like the other one, it too is leaving some darker flecks. I wonder if it's actually the paper. I am coloring on a hot pressed watercolor paper. Hot pressed is a very smooth paper, and I chose this because it's smooth for the colored pencils, as well as I'll be able to get the watercolors on there because it's quite absorbent like watercolor paper. Next we have 929, and this one is just called Pink. This one feels a little bit more velvety than waxy, but I can still see when I'm pushing hard here in the darker area, you can see the wax build up. I don't know if you're familiar with working with colored pencils at all, but there's a limit to how much you can put down before the wax buildup just becomes too thick to actually apply anymore. Okay, next I'm just following these in number this time instead of trying to worry about warm or cool or anything like that. This one is 930 and it's called Magenta. And magenta is your base primary. It's not what we were taught growing up is your primary red, but in the grand scheme of color mixing, it is your primary red. It's a little bit rainy and gloomy outside today, so it's a good day for me just to sit here and mindlessly color these swatches. It's very relaxing. There's no problem solving. I don't have to worry about composition or anything. I can just relax away. Okay, next we have 993, and this one is called Hot Pink, which is, I would always have assumed something more like this was a hot pink, but what do I know? I'd say this is very much like a Barbie pink. Okay, the last of my colored pencils for my pinks is 994, which is called Process Red, which is funny because Process Red could also be another name for magenta as well. I'm just speaking from the printing world. I've spent some time as a graphic designer in the print world, and Process Red and magenta are almost interchangeable in my mind. But this is definitely cooler than the magenta that we swatched. I think this actually feels more like a true magenta to me than the magenta previously swatched. It kind of makes me want to get out my ink cartridges and take a look at my printer. Okay, and that's it for the colored pencils that I have in pink. So I shall set these aside. And I will move on to my water-soluble, coloring supplies. I have this water-soluble colored pencil, which is Derwent watercolor, and this color is Rose Madder Lake 21. It's definitely a Rose Madder color if you're familiar with watercolor paints at all, and they possibly also have it in oils and acrylics. Rose Madder, it is pretty close to this color. I don't know, so the name is Rose Madder Lake. The lake colors are generally fugitive, that is, that they will fade in the sunlight. But this could be, because like I said, it's not really high quality art supplies. It's kind of entry level, I think. I can even tell when I'm scribbling here, it's quite scratchy, and I don't know if it's light fast or not. My guess is probably not, either way. So I'm gonna get my paintbrush. Where did it go? A little bit of water. And we'll just water activate the bottom half of this here so we can see how it looks. These Derwent watercolor pencils, they do water activate, as you can see. It does shift the hue ever so slightly. I feel it's a little cooler now, but with the Derwent ones I have found they don't totally reactivate, meaning that you can actually still see where I've scribbled with the pencil underneath, so it doesn't completely dissolve and make a nice smooth wash. But if you wanted something nice and textural, it'd be a great option for that. Okay, next I've got two Derwent art bars. Sorry, one is broken because I'm a little heavy-handed. So I've reviewed these in my other videos too, just of course in other hues. And they are a waxy, kind of like a crayon, I guess, but they feel drier and wax. Well, they feel drier, and it's water soluble once you add water to it, obviously. This color is A24 Vivid Pink, which, I mean, it's pretty soft and pastel-y to me. I don't know why they'd call it vivid, but they did. I don't know if Derwent still makes these. I bought these from my local art store. They were clearing them out a while ago for like $1 a piece, so I just bought like a handful of these to play with them and try them out, mostly in sort of the primaries. Lots of water. So where it's lighter, it almost feels like it lifts right up when it dissolves. I've got some more pigment scribbled on the side, a little heavier, and it's sticking better. Okay, this next one is A08 Process Magenta. It should be similar to that one. Yeah, pretty similar. I think it's maybe even just a tiny bit cooler. These are not intended for tiny little details. They're quite bulky on the ends, but they're not bad for just scribbling and getting some color down. I have not tried mixed media with these to see what I could put on top of them. I haven't played with them that much yet. And again, we got a bit of a hue shift here when we activate it with water, but it's still quite lovely. They definitely reactivate or activate. They seem smoother than the Derwent pencil did. It dried like super quick. And the last drawing, water-soluble drawing, whatever you want to call it, utensil that I have is by Karen Dash. It's a Neo Color 2, and these are water-soluble wax pastels, they call them. They're basically just like a crayon that's water-soluble. And this one is called Salmon Pink. And I tested one of these in my reds and see if it's, yeah, see, it's the same here. It's so much nicer than the Derwent art bar. It's just, it just goes on so nice and smooth. It just feels really nice. If you're into the kind of, some kind of a pencil or stick or something that you can just scribble on and maybe water activate afterwards, I think that these are a great option. I ordered these from Jackson's Art Supplies in the UK because at the time that I bought them, they didn't have any at my local art store, but they have recently started carrying them at my local art store, so I'm super excited for that. But yeah, it's just so much smoother, creamier, I don't know, I just so much more prefer these. And then even when we go to re-wet these here, it almost turns into like a opaque smooth watercolor or something. It just feels really nice and smooth. Okay, let's move on to my favorite, the watercolors. Most of the watercolors I have, as I've mentioned before, are these old Winsor Newton watercolors. I bought a large lot of them off of eBay a lot of years ago when I first got interested into watercolor. Since then I've accumulated a few other brands, so we'll see that as we go along. I'm going to start with this first one here, which is a Winsor Newton. It's called Permanent Rose. And for all you pigment people out there, this is actually a violet pigment. It's a PV19. But as you'll see when I paint it out, it's quite pinky. Pinks are definitely a very lovely color to use in painting. This is a very intense, cool color. Actually, it feels warmer in the darker mass tone areas than when it's watered out. It feels quite cool there, but it's very pretty. Pretty and vibrant. The next one is actually my favorite pink watercolor by Winsor Newton, and it is Rose Madder Genuine. It is unfortunate that this is my favorite color because this color is not in any way light fast. So use this in your watercolor paintings if you intend for them to be good pieces of art that last a while. And this color will fade. It starts to fade to like a brown and then just gets very pale. But until that point, it's a very, very beautiful color. And its pigment is actually called Lake of Natural Matter NR9. And I have not experienced this with any other watercolor paint that I have, but this Winsor Newton Rose Madder, actually, I like the smell. Like, it actually has a smell, and I like the smell of it. It just smells pretty. It's very thick here on the end. I think it's starting to dry out. It's quite old. I don't use it very often because of its light fastness restrictions. But it's got, in its solid form, as you can see, or in its fully concentrated form, it's a very dark color. But it's actually a very, very nice, soft, gentle, just a pretty pink. And it's got that yummy smell that goes with it. Maybe I got a contaminated tube. I don't know. Let me know. Do you have this color? Does yours smell great too? It's just too bad that it's not light fast. I have been trying to find a light fast replacement for this color or alternative to this color. So the next couple here are my attempt at that. And this is actually the closest that I have found. And this is a Daniel Smith. This is one of their Primatech paints. And this one is just rhodonite. It's genuine rhodonite. And this is actually pretty close to Rose Madder. It has a good light fastness, so that's a plus. It's got that, again, that quite dark color while it's in its concentrated form. This one, I feel like some of the binder was up at the top, so it's not really acting as it normally does when I paint with it. Sorry. Okay, this next one is also one that I tried as an alternative to Winsor Newton's Rose Madder Genuine. And this is Opus Essentials Watercolor. Now, Opus is the local art store here in British Columbia. They have, I think, 6 or 7 locations across the province, but it's specific to the province. And this is their store brand. And I'm not sure they're essential watercolors. I'm not sure if they're artist grade or student grade, but this one's called Rose Madder. So I picked up a tube of it to give it a try. And this is a mixture of Pigment Red 88 and Pigment Violet 19. Whoop. an air bubble in that one. I'm gonna use all this paint. It shall live on that palette over there and I shall use it later. Okay. And I might mention, none of these other paints have that same lovely smell that the Winsor Newton Rose Madder Genuine has. So as you can see, this is way, way more intense than the Winsor Newton Rose Madder, which may be your thing if you want a super, super intense color. This could be your way to go. There's nothing wrong with it. It just is more of a magenta to me than it is this beautiful, soft, petal pink color that Rose Madder Genuine is. And this next one, it was my last attempt at trying to find a replacement for the Rose Madder Genuine. And this is by a company called Holbein, and this color is called Brilliant Pink. And it is a dual pigment color. It has pigment red 209 and pigment white 6. So because of the white pigment in this paint, it is it's very opaque. It's just like a opaque pastel pink. Again, it's quite lovely. It's just not that Rose Madder color. If you know of any really good alternatives, light, fast alternatives to that Rose Madder Genuine, please let me know. So this is a very soft pastel opaque paint. Okay, this next one is called Quinacridone Red. And I know it's a red and the label even looks red, but you will see that when I paint it, it is quite pinky. It's one of those weird colors that, depending on how you look at it, could really go either way. I decided to put it on this swatch sheet as opposed to my reds, but it is pigment red 208. Look at how vibrant that is. It's almost like it's definitely an orangier side of pink, so it almost could, like, it definitely could be, you know what I mean? Like, now it could be considered a red. I mean, it is a red, but you know what I mean? I am rambling. It could go on either a pink or a red swatch sheet, I believe. But I chose pink because it still feels very pink to me, and I had a lot of reds. Okay, the next one, also a Winsor Newton color, and this is Opera Rose, and this is another one that is super, super intense. But it is intense because it has a fluorescent dye in it, and unfortunately fluorescent dyes are not light fast. So again, this is one that will very quickly fade. But it's got the fluorescent dye. They say it's a resin-based pigment mixed with pigment red 122. And if you've never experienced this color before, you might be in for a surprise. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up because of the fluorescence in it. I'll see what I can do in editing, but that's a lot of paint. It is very, very, very bright. Got way too much paint on here. There we go. Trying to get at that gloppy spot that I put down dissolved. But yeah, look at this now. See how intense that is? I mean, I hope you can see how intense that is. It is very fun to play with, and it's difficult to use, even if you want to use it in illustration work that's intended to be scanned in the scanner. Even if the scanner picks up the brightness of the fluorescent, you will never be able to reproduce it in print. And then as a fine art paint, it will fade. So it's not the most ideal paint, but it is really bright and fun to play with. So if that's what you want it for, it's perfect. Okay, next we've got another Winsor Newton one. This is one of their new packaging, that's why it looks different. And this is quinacridone magenta, and its pigment is pigment red 122. So it's the same pigment that's in this this one here, but it doesn't have the fluorescent in it. Again, I got way too much of a thick blop on there. So being a quinacridone color, it is still quite intense. Most of them are very vibrant, but as you can see, it doesn't have the fluorescence in it as the upper rose one does. Okay, last tube style watercolor, and it is Permanent Alizarin Crimson by Winsor Newton. Now, I swatched out alizarin crimson in my reds because it is a color that you can use as your reds. This one is a slightly different formula. It's permanent alizarin crimson. The difference between the regular alizarin crimson that I swatched in my reds is not light fast, whereas this one is light fast. I don't think it's got the best light fastness rating, but it does have one. I can't find it anywhere here on the tube, even though it's here somewhere. Anyways, so I'm not sure why I decided. I think that it's just a slightly different formula, and it ended up in my pink pile. So here we are swatching it now. It also could have gone on the reds, but it is Pigment Red 206. I got a little dry bit of paint from the end of the tube in there. You see that big chunk? That's what that is. It's just dried paint. So yeah, again, this could have gone either on the reds or the pinks, but it is here. Can't move that chunk of paint. Oh well. Okay, I have one more watercolor, and this one is a liquid watercolor. It is Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus Fine Art Watercolor. This color is called quinacridone magenta, and these paints are highly concentrated liquid watercolor pigments, and you can use them directly out of the tube as they are already they're already liquidy, so you don't have to worry about mixing them with water if you don't want to. But because they are so highly concentrated, you really only need a tiny little dot, and if you add water to it, it goes a really, really long way. You see it's very, very concentrated, very saturated, and I could cover a large area with that tiny little drop that I just put in. I'm just going to condense it into this tiny little square. Okay, next I am going to do the two inks I have, and I'm going to I'm going to find a piece of paper and slide it under there because they will likely bleed through. I'll just slide this piece of watercolor paper under there if I can. I'm working on a watercolor block, so all the pages are glued together, so I can't just lift it up. I mean, I could unglue it and do it, but I don't want to do it that way. Okay, so the two inks that I have, this first one here is Liquitex acrylic ink. I have a few of their acrylic inks, but they released this set of muted colors, and this one is muted pink, and I had to pick up the muted colors because, I mean, I just had to, because they're so nice and sort of, well, muted, okay? Anyways, this has got 3 pigments in it. It's got a pigment yellow 42, a pigment red 122, which is the same as these ones here. Oh, on this paper you can really see the fluorescent separating. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera at all. I'll zoom in later. I still don't know if it'll show up. Sorry, and pigment violet 23. So these, as I said, they are acrylic ink. So once dry, they will be permanent. You can't reactivate them with water as you can with watercolors or other water-soluble material. It is water-based, however, so you can thin it and manipulate it with water. But it is, it's a very, as you can see, looks even more muted against that fluorescent, but it's a very muted, moody, desaturated pinky color. And then the other ink I have is a Winsor Newton drawing ink. And this, I think they actually classify this as one of their reds, but this is 967 Scarlet, and as you will see, it's very pinky, which is one of the reasons why I started actually using the acrylic inks, is because I wanted a really intense red color. And these ones, actually, this is very similar to that one up there. And this ink, I don't know if you could, it's literally immediately soaking right into the paper. Like there's no chance for me to blend it out and try to make it green. It's just literally, I can't even, it's like using a felt marker. It just soaks right in. But yeah, it's very, very pink. This is not what I consider to be a red, but like I said, a pink is technically red. Okay, last thing I have are some markers. And I have Copic markers, or Copic markers, however you like to pronounce them. And 2 of these are actually, they're considered reds, and 2 of these are considered red violets, which would be like a pink. So I just put them all in the pinks, and we're gonna swatch those out really quickly to take a look at them. I've mentioned before in other videos that I was really into these for a while, and so I only just have a few handfuls of them that I was playing around with. I haven't continued to add to my collection of markers, and honestly probably won't. We'll have to see where the future goes. But I do still have some, and thought I would add them to the sheet. Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you what color this was. So this is red 20. It's called Blush. So the next one is red 83. It's called Rose Mist. Okay, now my 2 rose violets. This first one is Rose Violet 000, and they call it Pale Purple. But it is not very purple at all, in my opinion. But it is very, very pale, what some might call maybe a baby pink. And the last one, we've got the red violet called Charisse, so French for cherry, I believe, and yeah, RV06. Last one, here we go. Holy cannoli, look how bright that one is. Holy crap, that's almost like a opera rose with a fluorescent in it. It's super bright. But there we go. There is all of our wonderful pinks swatched out. I will see if I can get up close and zoomed in here so that you can see them better. Yeah, starting with the colored pencils. See what I mean by the flecks though, those little flecks that were showing up on my colored pencils. and the water-soluble media. And into the watercolors. And you can see quite the difference between the rose madder, which I really like, and the closest replacement I have found, which is the Rhodonite Genuine by Daniel Smith. And there is that fluorescent pink. And again, I don't know that the camera will do this justice, but hopefully you can see some splotchiness. And in real life, these sort of splotches, they're an intense fluorescent color. And the inks. That ink is quite bright as well. That's the Winsor Newton ink. And then the Copic markers. And again, it's super bright. So there you go, there's all the pinks, and I want to thank you if you've made it this far. I know not everybody is interested in these videos, but some people seem to enjoy them. I know I enjoy them. They are very relaxing to me. Do you like the color pink? Do you use it a lot in your work? What kinds of pinks are your favorite? Do you have a must-have pink? I have had an instructor once that would always use a hot pink acrylic paint as a base coat underneath his paintings so that it would pop through in bits and pieces every now and then. So it was a very cool effect. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me again on this swatching video. I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, wherever you're watching right now. Please consider subscribing and hitting that like button to give me a little bit of support. And bye for now.